What's good, everybody? Remember 17. Today we're going to be covering what is meta. Meta simply means the most effective tactics available. And when it comes to the most effective tactics in UFC 4, the main priority is going to be around damage. On top of damage, the risk versus the reward. Ideally, you want low risk to medium reward or high reward, of course. The other thing is going to be the stamina cost for said moves that you're going to be using, how interchangeable they are. Block management for not only yourself, but also what are you going to do to your opponent to make them manage their block in certain ways. The fighter picks are extremely important in terms of meta. That includes idols, stats, perks. Certain fighters simply have better idols, and it makes them work 10 times more efficient than other fighters. This includes guys like Conor McGregor, guys like Alexander Volkanovski, guys like Robert Whittaker, Peter Yan. You get the idea. The guys that everybody always picks, because of those fighter picks, it allows them to cover their shortcomings much easier than if they were to use a lower rated fighter. Of course, not only with that, it's the interchangeable use. The better the fighter, the more playstyles you're able to implement and different varying degrees of said meta. Really good players are able to use different aspects of the meta, but on top of that, you also have to consider factors like delay. You have to consider factors like lag. Some players are able to use said meta tactics based on their connection, and of course, based on that and other things, their consistency in their cycling when they're on offense and on defense. So there's a whole lot of things to, unravel here when it comes to sequences, striking, etc., etc. But UFC 4 is a game that its core meta is still very similar from UFC 3. A couple of things have led to certain people being patched out, aka, they can't use certain things anymore, so they're not as good in the game anymore. It's that simple. So I'm going to be going over just basic things that are currently in the mainstay meta in UFC 4, why they're so effective, but just a brief little overview. But really, the most important thing with understanding the meta is that the meta allows you to read sequences. When you're able to read sequences, you're able to see what your opponent will do to you, not only on offense or whatever you have to do when you are on defense. When you are hurt, outside of things that we can't control, right? Things like tracking, we can't control when the game wants to work the way it's supposed to work. We can't control certain speed ups and how things are supposed to work. But what we can control is what we're able to see in front of us. And if the mighty gods of EA allow the game for it to work the way it's supposed to work, then we should be able to at least win 80% of our matches. Because everything has a set sequence, everything has a set patterns, and the best players are going to be able to read those set patterns and punish them either on half beat or just make it to the point where their opponents are not going to be able to react to them in the way that they expect to react. So disclaimer, if you're going to be watching this video, you need to have already watched my counter-striking videos, my block system videos. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of information and you're not going to be able to retain this information without having your fundamental concepts down. So please take a look at the striking playlist before you follow through with this video. That being said, quick little overview. Everything's a guessing game to an extent. Of course, you're going to look to read your opponents and counter them accordingly. But truly, you're taking a chance of a strike that's going to go high or low. And when it comes to the guard, whether it's going to be a straight strike or a round strike, also plays a huge factor. If you're going for the short-term guard breaking, this is reliant on you expecting your opponent not to be able to attack your onslaught right away. How good players tend to mix this up meta-wise. They'll go for short staccato strikes early on to work on the guard. See how you respond. And because of the short-term block, if you're moving your head all over the place, when your short-term stamina is low and you take damage to the block, you take more damage. Now, Cejudo here, because he's not moving his head, he's able to survive a little bit more. But I'm just constantly working his short-term block, getting it low to a specific point, and then I'm looking to bleed through and cause a lot of damage. Very meta. Second portion of certain meta things that we like to do, the 1-2 head kick. Why is this effective? Where you try to catch your opponent when they're going backwards in step kick range after you punch. The slip straight is a very meta counter to slip straight strikes. The lead leg kick feint is a very meta mix-up. The reason why this is such a common mix-up that you'll see everybody use in almost every single weight class is because with the right fighters, you are threatened from both sides. It locks you out from trying to lunge from a specific side, because if they lead leg kick feint and they follow up with a leg kick right after it, or they follow up with a rear body kick or something, you're in trouble. So this is why this is so effective. The forward slip hook, everybody knows about this, and it can be chained as bait to counter the slip straight counter. So if the guy's looking to slip your straight shot after you throw a jab, you will input a forward slip hook. Now you can counter the forward slip hook by either slipping to the inside and throwing your lead hook counter into your rear hook. So that's one counter against that meta counter. As you notice, everything has a counter to another counter. That's how it works. That is what's meta. What else is meta? The teep. The body teep is one of the most meta distance creating things. It pokes the body extremely well. If your fighter has a teep, you can do real good work with this. Of course, this is acceptable to lunges, susceptible to side kicks, but it is very important that you know how to time a really good teep, because it will make your opponent very, very cautious about trying to enter the pocket with you. Very meta. One of the best tools. Not crazy damage, but it adds up. ESFL champion Swiss Sliebacks was one of the first few guys to do this, and when the game dropped, and now everybody and their mama does this. The slip straight lead overhand is super fucking fast for whatever reason. Can also be chained with a spinning heel kick. Why is this meta? It makes your opponent not want to throw fucking jabs. It is extremely fucking fast, and it is a very, very deadly mix-up. Very important to add this to your game. Pull elbows. You just gotta see it for yourself. That's why that's meta. Of course, the slip rear body upper. Ed Parker and I had discovered this back in UFC 3, and it really got popularized when he started streaming and then doing a lot of this with Conor McGregor. Very dangerous meta counter. And this is extremely frowned upon in the EA Sports UFC community, and this has to end. But this is an effective tactic. It's the knee elbow. Why is it an annoyingly effective tactic? Because it can change the camera angle. You can move laterally to the side. It can mess up the tracking. And of course, you can lunge out the way. If you don't block the knee in time, and you don't lunge out of the way of the elbow, you're taking a lot of damage. And this kind of puts you on a fight or flight mode. And this is one of the worst things. One of the worst meta things. That should not be a thing anymore in this game. But it is. There's different ways to deal with it, but it's so meta because the knee can not only do damage to your body, but it stops you from trying to throw punches to the body, and it just has ridiculous tracking. So this is the extremely frowned upon knee elbow. Of course, the most popular way to counter a knee elbow is trying to sidestep. I found that the lead elbow works the best when you guys are in the same stance, but it also works just as well as in opposite stances and whatnot. And if you throw the lead elbow or the rear elbow, you can follow up with an uppercut, and it'll help you get a good knockdown. But it's really tough, and this is one of those metas that has to go. But yeah, that's just a quick little overview of what is generally considered meta. Don't believe me? Watch your favorite streamers. Watch your favorite people that fight. Tell me that they haven't done one of these things at least once. It's meta because it works. It's an effective tactic. And when you understand how effective tactics work, then you can start reading on people. And we're going to cover that in the next segment for the series. I'm out of here.